All right, hi friends, happy e-learning. Today will be our first lesson, e-learning, and we're looking at lesson 8.7, which is not estimating quantities, actually, that's a lie. We're looking at performing operations with numbers written in scientific notation. All right, so our success criteria, I can explain how to add and subtract numbers in scientific notation. I can explain how to multiply and divide numbers in scientific notation. And of course, I can use operations in scientific notation to solve real life problems. So let's look at our first examples here with adding and subtracting. So for our first example, we have 4.6 times 10 to the third plus 8.72 times 10 to the third. Okay, so this problem is nice because we can see right now that both of our powers are times 10 to the third. So since that's the case, we can actually go ahead and just add those two coefficients. So 4.6 plus 8.72, and it's going to stay, right, times 10 to the third power. So if we add 4.6 and 8.72, we end up getting 13.32, and again, times 10 to the third. However, we all know that this number is not written in scientific notation, right? My decimal point needs to move, right, one spot over to the left, because our first number needs to be greater than 1 and less than 10. So this number becomes 1.332. And then now our power is going to change. Because we made the 13 smaller, my exponent is going to get bigger. So it becomes 1.332 times 10 to the fourth. All right, in our next example, example B, this one is subtraction. So this one right now we can see we're starting with different powers. So before we're able to combine those coefficients, we actually want those powers to be the same. So I'm going to change the 6.6 times 10 to the negative third, right, to make it times 10 to the negative second, like the problem, or like the piece to the left. So if I make my exponent larger, right, because that's what I did, I made my exponent larger by 1, okay, that means I'm going to have to move my decimal over, okay, to the left to make that number smaller. So it becomes 0.66 times 10 to the negative second. So now I can combine that with my original piece, which was the 3.5 times 10 to the negative second. Okay, now that they both have the same powers, right, now we can combine those coefficients. So if I do 3.5 minus 0.66, let's do a little math here. 14 minus 6 is 8, right? 2.84. Okay, 2.84 is between 1 and 10. So now I can leave this as 2.84 times 10 to the negative second. All right, multiplying in scientific notation, example 2. Okay, multiplying in scientific notation is actually a little bit easier because here we don't care if the powers are the same. So here I'm just going to group the 3 and the 5 together. And then I'm going to group the 10 to the negative 5 and the 10 to the negative second together. So here we just follow, I'm going to rewrite that parenthesis. Here we just follow our rules, right? 3 times 5 is 15. My exponent rules tell me that if I'm multiplying, then I'm adding those exponents, right? So I do negative 5 plus negative 2, which would give me 15 times 10 to the negative 7th. And then we need to do the same thing that we did in the first example, where we know that 15, right, is not between 1 and 10. So I need to move my decimal over once to make it 1.5. And since I made that number smaller, I need to make my exponent bigger. So if I do that, it becomes 10 to the negative 6. All right, same gist for dividing. So if I'm dividing in scientific notation, right, I'm just going to split this up. I'm going to look at 1.5 divided by 6. And then separately, I'm going to look at 10 to the negative 8th divided by 10 to the 8th. So if I divide 1.5 by 6, I get 0.25. And then my exponent rule tells me that I need to subtract. So I get 0.25, right, times 10 to the negative 16th. And then just like before, right, 0.25 is too small. I need to move it once to the right to make it 2.5. And if I moved it to the right to make this bigger, then I need to make this smaller, so it becomes 2.5 times 10 to the negative 17. All right, last example here. Okay, so here we need to pay attention to this diameter that they gave us on the bottom, right? And then they gave us our other diameter here, right? 5 times 10 to the negative 11th. Okay, and then they asked how many times greater, okay, is the diameter of the sun than the diameter of the ion. So I want to divide the diameter of the sun, which would be 369, 1.4 times 10 to the 9th, divided by my 5 times 10 to the negative 11. Okay, and now it becomes just like the problem we did before. So if I divide my 1.4 by 5, I get 0.28. And if I divide here, 9 minus negative 11 becomes times 10 to the 20th. Okay, and then once again, I need to move my decimal over to make that number bigger. So that becomes 2.8. And if my number gets bigger, I need to subtract 1. So it becomes times 10 to the 19th. All right, guys, that is it for today. Go ahead and log into Big Ideas now and try your Big Ideas homework.